Huh. Where's all my committee members?
Hello.
Hey, Jim.
How you doing?
Good. Sort of wondering where everybody is.
Well, they're not here yet. Well, they all got, invitations today, so that should have reminded them.
I somehow didn't get the panelist one, but Ebenezer was willing to give me a promotion.
Oh, that was nice of him.
It was. Hey, Bruce.
Here comes someone. Here's Bruce.
Hi all.
Hi.
Happy fall. Hope you had a good summer.
Yeah. Did you guys have a good summer?
Too quick.
Agreed. I love summer.
There was this one very summary part that was too summary.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, nice talking to you.
1, 2, 3, 4. Our committee is so small right now, we actually have a quorum, but let's give it another 2 minutes.
What happened? Do we lose people?
No, we just never got filled up again after the passing of Edith and then when Omar moved off. And so far, we have been given no new members, even though some other committees have received new members. So my joke is it's hard not to take personally, but well, I know not all the dust is settled. So hopefully for next month we'll have more of a full complement again.
Okay. Meeting what, 7?
Well, I mean, we're 7. I think, don't a lot of other committees have 9?
No, our housing doesn't.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, we lost a few people and not been replaced. Eda Santiago left.
We have new people that they're going to assign to committees, I would imagine.
Yeah. Hey, Mary.
Hi. How's everybody?
Mary.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Aren't board members required to be members of 2 committees?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if we're all the way through the process of everybody getting their assignments. Like, I think people have been assigned to some committees, but I'm not sure if everybody's gotten to, all their assignments. I mean, it seems hard to believe that we wouldn't get anybody new, but I mean,
there aren't all that many new members either, because you and I were at the orientation. Were there like 8 of them?
well, but I don't think we had the full complement there.
No, I think there were 2 more.
Yeah.
Most of
Ebenezer,
them-
do you know how many new members there are?
Ebenezer? How many total members do we have on the community board now?
How many new? I believe we got around 10 or 12, right?
What's the total now? What's the total now?
We have 50 members now. We're full capacity. Yes.
And they're not distributed to all the committees yet, though.
No, I don't see that was assigned to all the committees. When Elias made the assignments, I was out on vacation, and the structure is not complete yet. Some new member have been assigned to committees, but I think he's still working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Just give me,
I don't quite understand why new board members this time were appointed this late in the year. New members are usually appointed in relatively early winter time.
I
no,
think,
no, it's always
No.
like at the earliest, I feel like May meeting, but really usually not before the June meeting. And I think these people were in place for June. It's just that we didn't do the assignments. Ebenezer, can you promote Jackie Lazaro from DOT? She's in the attendee group.
they did have 700 applications for all of Manhattan, and because it was Mark's team was new, they were a little bit behind. Perfigaro told me that when I saw him whenever.
All right, well, it is, hey, Marshall. And Ebenezer, you can move Marshall on the panelists as well. Okay, so
We have to Jackie Lazaro. Did I promote the right one?
yes. All right, so Leo's not here yet, meaning we don't have a note taker. If people could just jot like loose notes, and what I'll do is I will take incomplete notes and put out a first draft if he doesn't join later, and just ask everybody to do a little, when I circulated a draft, just like drop stuff in, because I'm assuming nobody wants to just step in to take notes tonight. All right, so it's 7:08. I'd like to call to order September 2022 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting for CP12. My name is Debbie Nababian. From the committee tonight, we have Mary Anderson, Jim Berlin, Jay Mazer, and Bruce Robertson. Public member Marshall Vanderpool, although not a public member on our committee, is with us tonight as well. I appreciate you being here. So tonight we don't have sort of, I want to use tonight to sort of do two things. One, there's been a lot of action over the summer. Things have gotten built or started or all that stuff. So I want to talk about that. And just get sort of an update to the best of Jackie's ability. Lyle couldn't be here tonight, to just sort of what they have on tap. I guess I've heard some rumors about stuff that might be coming down the pike. And then touch upon congestion pricing, but just sort of a little bit reorganized of how I had it on the agenda. I think what I'd like to do is just start with DOT and Jackie, and so this will mostly be covering old topics and be more by way of update than discussion items. But I have sort of one or two areas that that are like a little bit more of discussion items. Jackie, I'm just going to start by saying, and then I'll sort of put you a little bit in the hot seat, that, and I'm sure I'm missing things, but Jim Berlin sent a picture with the conversion of Seaman Avenue between Dykeman and Riverside as being implemented. And so I guess that's just a couple of days now or what have you. So I'm interested. So one, that's happened. And two, just if there's any feedback yet. We have, hey, Leo.
Hey, Debbie, how are you? I'm sorry about being late.
No, we just got started.
Glad to be
here. Yeah, welcome back from the summer. And Jim is holding up a photo of the newly converted to two-way Seaman Avenue. I guess, I mean, this may have started, I think this started maybe soon after our last TNT meeting, but maybe it had already started, the implementation of safety measures, et cetera, on Amsterdam Avenue, north of 188th Street. And I guess nothing's really changed in terms of open restaurants. And as usual, we've gotten a lot of comments that really go more to traffic enforcement than DOT specifically, but that has to some extent continued, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a bit. I am curious if this will be the year that we see implementation of, and people are really gonna have to search our memory banks for this one because the resolution was some years ago, a whole bunch of changes on Riverside Drive, kind of just around the GWB, so all the entrance and exit ramps. But if you were a pedestrian down there, it's all very putting your life in your hands. So Jackie, I don't know if you know about that, but that would be helpful. And I guess on the busway, we the change to shorten the number of hours that the busway is in operation each day was done from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. And okay, that's what I've got. Jackie, do you have sort of any notes about stuff that's happened over the summer that I may have missed? Any feedback that's come as to you about things in CB12 and what we might have upcoming?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. And again, apologies Lyle wasn't able to join us today. So I will preface everything with, Lyle did his best to try and get updates for tonight's meeting. But unfortunately, I know like the agency's a little short-staffed. We still have some people out on leave. So I wasn't able to get, all the updates that we wanted. So regarding Seaman Avenue, I don't believe, let me just double check. I don't believe I have anything as of yet. So I'll just flag for Lyle and ask him to keep you guys up to date on that.
Yeah, and I think it really, I wouldn't have necessarily expected there to be feedback today, but yeah, we'll be eager to hear how things are going.
And then you had mentioned the busway. I haven't heard anything on the busway, and I'm not really too involved on that project. But could you give me the hours that you had requested again, just so I have it off the top of mind for my?
I think what you guys did was, now I'm forgetting what time of morning it starts. I think it starts pretty early, but it used to go till 10 p.m. in the evening. And now it's just going to 8 p.m. And as I understand it, that has been implemented.
Okay.
But I have to say, I haven't put my eyes on the signs or focused on it when I walk by. But I'm pretty sure that got implemented pretty recently. And that was in response to community concerns that we just, if we didn't need it, then we didn't want it, and so everybody felt comfortable with shortening the day somewhat.
Okay, yeah, so I will flag that for a while just because I'm actually not too familiar with that particular project.
Yeah. And
then I actually, funny enough, I did, when I first started out at DOT, I joined Lyle on those walkthroughs for Riverside, the viaduct, and all those improvements.
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't recall there being anything.
Actually, you know what? While you're checking, on that score, Bruce, why don't you go ahead, because you probably have the best eyes on what's happening down by the viaduct these days.
Well, actually, I ran into Jack Vogel in the coffee shop. He's the manager of River Arts, which is, right on the first row view of what's going on. He told me that the bus stop at 158, which is the underpass bridge the bus stop will be moved to 155 in about 2 or 3 weeks, and they're going to work on the 158 overpass section to do the concrete replacement and everything. The structural steel is done. So, he's pretty optimistic. And he didn't know how long that the bus stop was going to be moved down to 155, but no complaints. Things are moving along, slowly but surely, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, we had some issues in the beginning of the summer of just trying to get clarity on, like, there was some report like we'll be done in June or something like that. It was like,
Yeah.
There's definitely a long time to go. I think it was like a
Most
little
of-
confusion about the phases of the work,
Well-
but I'm glad it's been a quiet summer because it's a lot.
A lot of it had to do with, they had to work after midnight because of Amtrak. So the Amtrak, DOT, MTA, interface, they've got the NYPD garage underneath 158, so they're going to reinforce that. And River Arts is worried because they have a garage underneath, so they're looking at putting their own reinforcement support scaffolding in their garage. Everybody's queued up for like the worst case, but so far it's no catastrophes, moving along.
Good. Thanks, Bruce. All right, Jackie, back to you.
Yep, just looking quickly through, and I don't seem to have any updates for anything Riverside, unfortunately.
Okay, all right, and I'll follow up. And I think people should know that right now they are really light staffed. Kimberly Rancourt, who often, as we know, offers great coverage along with Lyle, is concentrating on the BQE project. So probably a big professional accomplishment for her, but not as available to us here. Wow. And then I think they have some other leaves and stuff like that. So I think we all just need to kind of be patient with the Manhattan Borough office right now. And again, thank Jackie for covering tonight, because I'm sure they're all doing a lot of double duty. So I guess just sort of flipping it as it relates to DOT and what I think we could expect, and maybe also talk about what we want to sort of put on our agendas this year. I would say sort of 3 things. One, we had asked for some updates on how the operating partner, maintenance partner at Cascaya Plaza, like how they were doing. We'd heard some things, like sometimes there were some issues. So do we sort of maybe want to just have a check-in on that? And I really don't get there very much. So I personally don't have a lot of visibility on what's happening. But it is something that there were just sort of some little things here and there, I think, through the spring last year. And so just as we did with the Haven Plaza, which I thought was really good, maybe we could think about doing that for Cascaya on Dykeman. And I'm going to come back to what I'd like to see us do, which is I would like to have us do something on open restaurant. And I don't think, but actually, and normally I don't approach it this way, but to do something that's pointed at the mayor's office, because I don't think ultimately DOT is going to do what the city, implement the program and the vision of the city. And I'm not sure it necessarily should get pointed at DOT. And so while there's not, right now, it's just sort of a little bit on hold because of some, is it litigation or environmental stuff? So while there's not sort of a juncture that we're kind of targeting, it's just a matter of, do we as a committee want to do something on open restaurant and these sheds in our roadways? Jay, actually, you've had your hand up for a while, and then Bruce, I know it sounds like you're going to respond directly.
Actually, My question is about the functioning of the DOT and how it affects our neighborhood. Last week, the city revealed that the city overall has a 9.7% vacancy rate, and these are already budgeted job positions. And the DOT, I believe, has a vacancy rate over 20%. And the city's excuse, which didn't really sound right to me, was that we can't pay people more because we have a union contract, which prevents us from paying what people are demanding these days. That doesn't exactly make sense, but I was more concerned with how these large vacancies in position affects our neighborhood and the functioning of the DOT in our neighborhood.
Well, I'm assuming that's above Jackie's pay grade. I will say that I've only had conversations with DOT about what's hitting the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's office, which is different than what you're saying. I mean, you're talking about in the actual operating areas. How much are they being impacted? And I assume, Jackie, who do you think that should be pointed to? Should I start with Ed? Should we just actually go to the commissioner's office and kind of ask those questions?
I feel like maybe, honestly, I think the best point of contact for that would probably be Ed, because he would be able to either elevate it to the commissioner's office and be able to get that information.
Okay. Okay.
Who's Ed?
Pinkar, the Manhattan Borough Commissioner.
Ah, yes. Thank you.
Bruce?
Yeah, back to restaurants really quickly. Anecdotally, I was talking to one restaurant operator in Hamilton Heights who said, well, I don't want to pay the rent that they want to charge me to have my shed outside of my restaurant, so I'm not going to do that anymore. So it may be a matter of combination of winter and paying rent to have a premises on the sidewalk or mostly on the curb. I'm seeing more and more restaurants down by me disappear from the street.
Wow.
Not
So
operating
you think
as much.
maybe we should just watch it a while and kind of see where
I don't know. Talk to whoever you're going to talk to about it and see what is the policy. But if they're charging rent to have a space on the curb, that's self-limiting for the restaurant to generate that much business when things are kind of getting back to normal. And meanwhile, it's going to get cooler and people don't want to be outside. They want to be inside. So why have that shed up there for the winter months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months paying whatever rent they're paying extra that they don't really need. So I don't know if there's a policy and somebody wants to take it down, put it back up. What's the protocol? It's confusing confusing to small businesses in our neighborhood.
Well, and there's no clarity. I mean, they're working on what they think it's going to cost, but nothing is being charged. The whole thing's on hold. Like there's actually no final program. So it's just a matter of if this committee wants to take on and do a reso on it, but I kind of want to see interest around the committee because I am sensitive to the fact, like, particularly when I end up writing a lot of the resos, like I'm also comfortable sort of watching how it plays out as we head into the colder months. And
can we poll the small business committee or the business development committee and see if they're getting any pushback or feedback or complaints from their people? And then so you have the DOT route, but they have the complaints from the local business people and whoever else complains to the community board before you spend a lot of time writing resos. We spend a lot of time running resos.
Yeah, that's a good point. Leo Jimenez, do you have any interest in maybe, can you do a little touch base with Francisco on this of like, they want to do anything? Again, I could kind of go either way, but
Yeah,
when I'm
yeah.
walking
can
around,
def-
I get cranky seeing people and all these things in like the roadbed, and I'm like,
Yeah, no, I can definitely reach out to Francisco, and I think Isidro might be another good point of contact. Being in his position with the bid, I'm sure he has a lot of communication with the businesses around him. So
yeah. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Actually, I just wanted to briefly mention, in terms of this, that viruses love cold weather. And what follows the fall is the winter. And that means that restaurants without those sheds will be hosting people in a confined space who are all unmasked because it's difficult to eat with a mask on. So there is some value in the sheds existing, apart from those questions in terms of public health. And there are also problems in the confined space area with many of the shed setups as well. And I think these health concerns need to be part of the discussion, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Good point. All right. So, and maybe I'll have a touch base with Steve at some point. Okay, so two more things, I think, and then I think we can move on. But so safety issues. So when there was that horrible tragic accident on Sherman, I put this down, and I had been contacted by somebody in the community who was just like, something needs to happen on Sherman immediately. Now, as it sort of evolved, I actually think that tragedy related, I think there was a police chase happening. So that wasn't per se sort of all on street design. But at the same time, very wide streets like Sherman, and particularly the borough commissioner told me when a sort of wide streets, multi-lane intersect another wide one, wherever it is in the city, it's always tough. So Lyle has offered, if we want, he said, we could organize like a walkthrough. And maybe that's Sherman and maybe that's something else, but I just sort of, again, wanted to get the committee's view on sort of I'd like to take him up on that, but sort of what is the hot spot or two spots that we think that would be most helpful. Again, I think Sherman, again, given what happened, etc., that's probably a good one. Does anybody else have thoughts? Jim?
I'm pretty sure Sherman Avenue already has speed bumps. I mean, maybe they can do something different, but keep in mind that Sherman Avenue is an integral part of our low speed child protection, whatever it's called. So it already has speed bumps. I think, as you pointed out, it does. Drive down it sometime. And
it doesn't have a bus route? No.
Sherman? No. And it also has speed bumps. I go down there all the time. So, but the thing is that, in an extraordinary circumstance, when someone is fleeing the police or the police are chasing people, or even, in a situation where an ambulance is racing somewhere, You know, like you sort of said yourself, it may have nothing to do with street design. It may have more to do with the particular circumstances. And obviously, I'm not trying to play down any tragedy.
All right. Well, let me talk to Lyle, and also maybe we should take a look at the accident data and kind of see what's popping in the district. I'll take a look at that. Do I have anybody else that might pull some data with me? Anybody into that? I mean, we should be kind of keeping on top of that data regardless.
Oh, we should, but on the other hand, we should keep in mind, you know, they already have the speed bumps, you know.
Well,
I mean,
no, I'm just saying if we don't.
Yeah, but let me just finish with,
if not
let me just-
Sherman.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. You know, at some point, what more can they do? I mean, now maybe, and again, there's probably, although we actually have the speed cameras running, you know, 24 hours a day, like a rational society ought to. We still can't have as many as we want. If we could have speed cameras on Sherman, even with the speed bumps, you know, but that's not a realistic tool until we can have as many of them. And I believe the legislature is still restricting them for some idiotic reason.
Okay, we're gonna come back to this. Last thing, and then I think I'm done with the DOT stuff and we can move on to the next, is it appears that, and Jackie, I don't know if you heard any of this in your travels, the DOT might be looking at bike lanes on the Washington Bridge. And I don't know if people remember, because it wasn't what we heard the most of, but we heard it, you know, just in terms of the Bronx connectivity. We talked more about the Broadway Bridge for cyclists, but there were people doing advocacy around the Washington Bridge because when those emergency repairs were happening, everybody's like, this would be a great moment to put on the lanes. But those were emergency repairs, so I don't think it went with that construction, obviously. But I hear that it is being looked at, so that might be coming our way. And again, that would be, I think it's just on one side. And Jackie, did you hear anything about that?
So I actually haven't. I tried checking in with my bike team, but I haven't heard any either confirmation or denials on if we're looking into a bike lane on Washington. But again, I flagged for them, so once we have more, I can definitely have Lyle update you guys.
Perfect. Okay, and then the very last thing I'll say is that traffic enforcement. So just before this meeting today, there was a discussion on Facebook, but it's something that I hear a lot at work, and I hear a lot that comes our way on community board about people feeling very unsafe with the amount of like mopeds and scooters on our sidewalks. And of course, that's an NYPD enforcement issue, and there's not a lot we can do from here. But then I had this idea, because, you know, NYPD, the Traffic Enforcement Command that's not who goes to public safety. Public safety is the precincts, etc. So we should invite them, and maybe we do it in conjunction with public safety, but I think we should just invite traffic enforcement, because it's so much of what, you know, people come to us and they raise with us, as you all know. So that's my idea there, is instead of telling people, you know, I also don't want to send people to public safety when traffic enforcement doesn't, again, I don't know, maybe they used to in the past, but like it's really precinct driven more than the Traffic Enforcement Command. Yeah, so and that might save us from trying to organize some joint thing, which is hard between the two committees. And then Ebenezer will also, he can partner with me and sort of cover things on the district service cabinet side as needed. So we both can sort of make efforts to get a little bit better connection to that group ourselves. That's my idea with all of that. Jim?
I didn't mean to have my hands.
Oh, that old hand. Okay.
Sorry.
So I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Is there anything else that people have in terms of old stuff, new stuff with DOT while Jackie is here? And I'm sorry, Marshall, you had something.
Yeah, just a couple of comments, observations, because one, with these bike lanes and all this, I feel, and the bicycles, motorbikes on the sidewalks, it feels like the Wild West now, because I'm looking all around trying to make sure that I'm not stepping into something. That's one. And then two, just going back to the conversation about Sherman Avenue, I don't believe there are any speed bumps on Sherman Avenue. And somebody in the Q&A had mentioned it and kind of confirms Allegra Legrand. Was it her? Yes, Allegra Legrand pointed out my observation, my belief that there were no speed bumps, and there are no speed bumps on Sherman Avenue. So just point of notice. All right, I'm gonna land my plane here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Omar Tejada. Thank you for coming to visit us. Ebenezer, can you just promote Omar for a hot second? So I think we're going to move to, I want to say some few things about the congestion pricing, but Allegra and then Dave. So Allegra, let me get you, I would say just hold a minute if it's congestion pricing related, and speak if it is DOT related. Sorry. Okay, you should be okay now.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so there are no speed bumps on Sherman Avenue. I think maybe Jim was thinking of Seaman Avenue, which does have some speed bumps. So DOT-wise, I was hoping we could also discuss the Amber Charter School again, which perhaps Dave Tom will also speak to. And I do want to discuss the possibility of the Greenway Detour when they shut down being on surface New York City streets, so which is a DOT parks thing, but mainly it's a DOT thing, and carving out space for that to happen, possibly Broadway, Bennett, 181st Street kind of thing. And I have some comments about the CBD pricing, but I'll hold those.
Yeah, by the way, Allegra, you're correct. I was confusing it with Seaman Avenue. Sorry about that.
That makes much more sense.
Sherman, busy street. They went to school on Sherman. They went to Washington Heights Academy. It has a turn lane. It has 2 lanes of traffic going each way, and supposedly there's a bike lane in there somewhere, but it's often very, very chaotic. 207th Street is a pretty chaotic interchange. People are coming back and forth. So I think it's not just Sherman. I think it's the confluence of Sherman and 207th Street, which is how people get over to Fordham and the Bronx. And yeah, traffic can be really dicey there. And as for traffic calming measures, it's a pretty easy formulation that the Department of Transportation uses that relates the lane width as well as the amount of shoulder space on the right side to the amount of traffic volume and to the speed they anticipate people going. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Okay, thanks, Allegra. And just, Dave, before I get to you, Jackie, you don't have anything on Greenway Alternatives during the parks construction on the Greenway. I know DOT was involved up front, but now that we've been sort of denied on the big vision for how to get people around during the construction, it is, you know, heads back to DOT for mercy on the cyclists. Do you have anything on that?
No, unfortunately, I actually didn't even have a flag for me. No, but I will check in with Lyle and see what if anything he has.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious if it's sort of, once the state said no, they won't give us part of the Henry Hudson, whether, and then Parks announced a new start date for the shutdown, or, you know, resuming the project, etc. That I'm just sort of wondering if the connection got made at DOT of like, it's really, you know, like kind of leaves us with nothing. Okay, so yeah, if you could just tell Lyle, like, to definitely, I want to connect with him.
Yes, definitely, we'll do.
Sort of sooner rather than later. Dave?
Thank you. Regarding Sherman Avenue, the police issued a statement where they said that no, it was not a police chase. There just happened by circumstance to be a marked car nearby, which is why police were there quickly, but it was not a chase. But I mean, that was a statement in a news article, I guess. I'm not sure how, take it for what it's worth. But with regard to street design, it would be perhaps beneficial to have DOT look at that, because Sherman right now is a strange configuration where it has a mostly painted median that occasionally makes way for left turn lanes. And what happens in practice is that there's a lot of double parking, and then drivers swerve into that painted median area. If DOT were to look at, say, converting all those yellow striped painted areas into planted medians, you probably would see a tremendous traffic calming impact, because you wouldn't be able to just, you know, go around traffic and floor it and zoom up the middle of the street. So that could be something to look at. The second thing I want to mention, as Allegra correctly predicted, was regarding Amber School, but also schools in general. I know Success Academy has its issues, and you know, it's sort of a citywide issue as kids continue to come from all over in increasing numbers by car to school, combined with schools having to do things. You know, Amber, we've met with many times in the neighborhood, and you know, they've kind of at this point thrown up their hands and said they don't really have a solution. What do the residents think is the solution? Which is not really the way to go about the problem. But you know, from their point of view, they have to hand the kids over visibly during the afternoon pickup. They can't just dismiss a young child out of the building. They have to see that parent. So the parents double park on a street that's only 30 feet wide, which doesn't really make double parking possible. And then they walk to the school, they pick up their kid, they go back to their car. And you know, we've had exactly 1 week of school, and my inbox is flooded with photos and videos of the traffic chaos. So the question to DOT would be, you know, we saw this coming because we started engaging with DOT before they opened. Every year we try to engage with DOT on this. The last we heard a year ago was that Lyle said they would do some studies, and this is not only with regard to traffic, but with regard to safety measures such as adding stop signs, which both Amber and the community really would like to see. And we just haven't heard anything. So we'd very much like DOT to report back on what was the result of their studies around Amber Charter School. What solutions do they have in working with the school and NYPD to mitigate the gridlock and all of the honking and other problems that go along with that? Because this is a school, it's only at 300 of its planned 900 plus students. So these problems will increase unless they're addressed now.
Thanks for bringing the report, Dave. I said to Dave that, for better for worse, I sort of feel like this is something that the council member would benefit by being involved in, because it is school plus some NYPD plus potentially some DOT. And, you know, what we learned with Success Academy is, like, there's only so much everybody could do, even if you're all operating with goodwill. And at a certain point, NYPD is not going to stand out there forever, right? So it's not because they're, and putting a school in a tight spot with not a lot of ways out, with a big census and more than the average number of car arrivals, like, nothing makes that better except not having the school there. You know, like, it can't, there's no, at a certain, so, but what did happen at Success, and there's still, I mean, it's still not great, but they did work out some places for people to kind of put their cars. Now, they had Margaret Corbin Circle a little bit to work with, which you don't have, but that kind of needs everybody trying to come up with solutions, including DOT, but to try to figure out how to make something safer and better in what's kind of a not that workable solution, and nothing's going to make it so. No amount of traffic engineering or traffic cops is going to make that all okay.
Debbie, I think there's some
Wait, Jay, you got muted again. You started unmuted and now you muted.
the Amber Charter School is the second school that applied to have a school there about 15 years ago, when the school was looking for a, the community got up in arms and mobilized elected officials, city councilmen, Robert Jackson at that time, and the borough president, and succeeded in preventing a high school where students would have gotten to school by public transportation from opening there. And they're now stuck with this problem because they didn't want Dominican kids to walk on their block because they thought it would reduce property values. And as the argument was stated at the time. And in a certain sense, they got what they wanted, and that high school with way fewer than 900 students, less than 300 students, who were totally ambulatory on their own and required no buses, never opened, and now they're stuck with a problem which they caused. I don't think that should be ignored. That's the root of this problem, actually.
Noted. Okay, so Dave, let's you and I reach out to Carmen's office, although maybe you already have.
No, last year we did. There was no response from the letter last year.
Okay.
And, you know, as to whatever happened 18 years ago, neither I nor most people in the area have much knowledge of that.
Okay. All right. So, as most people may know, hopefully know, we've just concluded there's like actually, let me back up. Central Business District tolling, or as we like to refer to it, congestion pricing, is sort of has taken steps to move forward towards implementation. Earlier in the summer, there was frustration, and the Manhattan Borough president actually did a press conference and spoke out about how, like, the board, like the public board, hadn't even been appointed, and sort of things needed to start happening. And then soon after that, and I attended that press conference, soon after that, then the board did get appointed, and then they opened up this public comment period, which is just concluded about it and really about implementation. So but so that's just concluded, but I wanted to just kind of say that we sort of heard there's sort of two big things that are out there, and then maybe I'll tap Leo to say a few words if he'd like. But sort of two things have come up. A lot of people are clamoring for residential parking because there is a thought that, like, things outside the zone are going to probably have impacts that relate to non-resident parking. And already, being that we sit at the George Washington Bridge, that was sort of already somewhat of an issue. So that's sort of one set of things. And the other set of things, and which I'm going to actually have Allegra speak to in her public comments, because she sent in a comment related, but also the congressman did a letter on this, and the Times wrote about it today. Are concerns about environmental impacts uptown, like near, like the I-95, Cross Bronx. The Times article focused on the South Bronx, because one thing that did come out in the environmental assessment is, like, truck traffic, stuff like that, is going to get a little more concentrated on the Cross Bronx and in those areas. So the overall congestion pricing, part of it is hitting environmental targets, but then you do have this issue that, you know, that I just described. So those are sort of the two categories of things that we've heard. Now, Leo Jimenez and I have discussed, and Leo's sort of done some thinking about this, about the residential parking thing. Different borough presidents have had sort of different positions on this. And we've talked about having that on the agenda at some point. And I think we should still do that, because again, there was a lot of comments online on that. It's a little bit of a complicated issue. Leo, do you want to say anything about that, or?
Yeah, sure. As we've spoken about it prior, I think that with the congestion pricing, we're gonna there's gonna be people from other boroughs, Jersey specifically, coming over the bridge and parking their cars in our neighborhood. That inconveniences our neighborhood because, one, it takes away from the residents that live here and travel to work, play. From the businesses, if people come and just park their cars here to take public transportation downtown, they're taking away from access to the businesses, our local businesses. So something that we discussed in the past, I do hope that we can bring it of not the council, but I guess the people working with congestion pricing. They recently had like a panel discussion and received a lot of negative feedback about it. So Not sure where the timeline is now, but I'm hearing it will be implementing by early 2023.
Okay. So let me go to Allegra and then Karen. I'm sorry, I'm just seeing you have a hand up. So Allegra, you want to start off?
Sure, thanks, Debbie. Yeah, so I
like
think
2 minutes.
I'll keep it brief. So they had a couple different traffic models which they studied the impact of different types of congestion pricing, and those all had to do with the central business district, nothing outside of it. But unfortunately, something happened for traffic models. They weren't even able to properly study the George Washington Bridge approaches, so they had to use some extrapolations, and there's not enough details of how they did their modeling to tell whether they did it properly. But the modeling that they did do showed that there is an increase in particulate matter, the fine particulate matter, 2.5 PM, less than 2.5 microns, across the I-95 corridor in Washington Heights, in the South Bronx, in Bergen County. All I-95 gets more congested. There's also an attendant increase, in ozone precursors. But they did, in their EAS, they did some magic where they combined large areas. So it actually looks like the air quality is getting better in Washington Heights and Inwood, but that is misleading and incorrect because it's actually getting worse, which is what they detail in the text. They also detail in the text that they don't know how much worse it's getting because their model, they couldn't take the right measurements to do the model properly, and it was COVID, and then they do a hand wave and then they decide some things are significant or not significant. I think for the community board, what would be nice is to say, look, their plan to study the problem for an extra 2 years, that's not enough. We know that there's going to be more truck traffic pushed into our neighborhoods, and we have to protect our air quality. And ways that we could protect our air quality, they could have studied an alternate scenario where they would have charged for the I-95 a toll there, or an alternate scenario where low emissions vehicles were incentivized by having less tolls. But they didn't do any of these things, and they kind of punt. To study for 2 years is just not enough. We don't want our kids to be sucking on the tailpipes when getting asthma from this. So I think the community board should follow, if Congressman Espaillat's already, I haven't seen his letter, but I can imagine that his concerns go very much into my own. The EAS was pretty rushed. Their model descriptions were pretty vague, especially the part where they said they couldn't figure stuff out because they didn't have the right measurements. They did not go through a professional peer review process, so we don't know I don't know how much confidence we should have in the results, and certainly them putting hard and fast numbers without having confidence intervals is not something that's typical when you have atmospheric chemistry kind of modeling. They should have confidence intervals on their models. So I think the community board should say, look, you have to, from day one, do no harm. We can't have an uptick in truck traffic along the I-95 corridor, and they need to come up with some other plan, some other incentivization to have zero emissions. The only thing they have along this kind of realm is in the Kingsbridge bus depot. They said will be prioritized to have low emissions vehicles, but I wouldn't say that buses are our principal source of diesel burning vehicles uptown. They're one of very many, and they're going to have to do something else and something more. Yes. Thanks.
Sorry, Jim, is that a new hand or an old hand?
I don't have my hand.
It's a new hand. I just wanted to comment on the issue of this, community parking or whatever it is. I think we should definitely discuss it. I've never seen it work in any area other than areas with private houses and stuff, but there may be a way of doing it. And of course it would have to be done in a way that people couldn't create fake passes and stuff like that, because that goes on all the time. But I certainly think we should discuss it. And insofar as DOT has looked into it, which they might have, they could even provide an expert to help educate us. That's what I wanted to mention.
All right, thanks, Jim. Karen, if you, yeah, just make sure you're unmuted.
Yes,
Oh, there you go.
so where are we? I had several questions, and one of them was what happened to the traffic study, which was supposed to be done by DOT to assess the traffic problems caused by the Success Academy. We never heard anything back.
Well, no, I think DOT didn't. I mean, they did look at the area. I mean, this was years ago. I sort of feel like, was this
This was just
2018 that we were doing this? So they're not, there wasn't a change to the roadway that they could do, and there wasn't more, you know, they had no standing and whatever, but there wasn't sort of no, they did come to a result of there wasn't more they could do on those streets. And in fact, one thing that they tried, then they pulled back because it didn't help at all, with removing some more parking spots. So
that didn't help the neighborhood. We lost 9 parking spaces already.
Okay, I'm just looking that you put in the Q&A that things are really unchanged there. Okay. But this is, I mean, I guess I'll just reiterate what I said. I mean, there is a point at which there is no answer. It's too many humans. There's too many cars in a place without outlet, and not enough street width, and not enough anything, and nothing's gonna sort of make that okay. And you can't permanently have an outpost of NYPD making it all okay. And there's nothing more that can be done to, again, modify the street. And that's, but I think we're sort of earlier in the cycle with Amber, and Amber is more communicative than was the case with Success.
Success is still not doesn't communicate with us. We email and they don't respond. And you know, the teachers are out there waving their hands at the cars, and the parents ignore them. Is there any way we can enforce carpooling? Everybody's coming up from Brooklyn. Something that will cut down the number of cars.
Congestion pricing, although I don't know how much that'll help us up here. But maybe some people who are roaming around their cars will decide against it. That is the idea. Get people out of their cars to some extent. Cassandra Colazzo. You should be able to unmute now. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. I was on the public safety meeting the other day, and Amber was, the school was brought up with the double parking and safety issues. And the new commanding officer of the 34th was there. And he basically said that he was going to send some police officers to speak to the administration there, to see what could be done. And the carpooling topic did come up because a lot of these parents are coming I know a lot of them are coming from the Bronx, some from Brooklyn. So that was brought up, and also ticketing. And unfortunately, towing was brought up also. I just wanted to mention that to everyone because my daughter used to go to PSMS 278, and we had a similar problem. And traffic officers came out, and they were actively, ticketing people who, it's one thing to drop your child off and get out of the car and just quickly bring them to their line or to the teacher. It's another to double park, go to the line, talk to your friend for 15 minutes, go inside, you know what I mean? So while other people in the area want to move their cars or just go up and down the block. So that's something that was mentioned, I just wanted to let everyone here know.
That's very helpful. I'm glad that he engaged on that, and I'm glad whoever of you were there to use it. That's really helpful. Okay. So we're not, I mean, there's not, this isn't, I didn't bring this up as a reso item. I'm loath, I tried several years ago. I'm loath to sort of get involved in policy. And I think this is way above the grade of community board. And again, it's in the Times today. A lot of people are focused on this. Because, a lot of the initiatives right now are about creating more equity and with environmental impacts, etc. And this is potentially a large inequity issue hitting communities that have always gotten sort of the raw end of the exhaust pipe, I guess. Let's see. So with that, that's what I've got. I think let's see. Omar, I'm going to ask you to unmute after we adjourn so we can say hello. Does anybody on the committee have anything that I have missed? Because I'm sure I missed some items that are hanging out there. Bruce?
When are we supposed to have the budgeting process completed by?
Oh, that's a good point. I have received no information. We have never received any information, but that's a good point. I feel like we're going to have to start dealing with that in October. Thank you, Not, for reminding me. And also, people should be aware that next month being October, we're going to have, I'm expecting 1 or 2 co-namings. So that'll be on the agenda, and so but I'll keep you posted because 2 people have sort of approached about it, and we'll see if they both make it to the finish line. Mary?
A couple of things. Well, one thing is the budget usually gets submitted actually sometime in October. And then subsequently we get the budget for all of the committees to, vote on how to prioritize them for the entire board. So we should have some discussion on that. And actually finalize the budget by our October meeting for the committee. The other thing though is I have some MTA issues. Are we going to have the MTA maybe at our next meeting? Because I have issues about about some bus stops being affected here in Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Some of which have nothing to do with the Bronx changes.
Let me talk to whoever's covering us these days and see if we can get, if we have co-namings and budget in October, then it's going to have to be November, I would think. So also, if you want to just, I know you've said some of them to me, but if you want to like draft a list and then we can also get them working on it beforehand, because the ones that do relate to the Bronx, we probably can't affect, but it actually though points to areas that then when Manhattan goes, then maybe we need to add it on the Manhattan routes, or address the gaps in the Manhattan go around.
I mean, the basic issue is the M100 bus, that they've eliminated some of the stops on Broadway, making it very difficult for anyone who's disabled or frail elderly to get to a bus stop,
all right,
because they have to walk twice as far to get
all
to a
right.
bus stop.
Ebenezer, let's make sure you and I follow up on that, because they usually, if they make any changes on stops, we usually get a notice, and I don't feel like I've seen anything on M100. You haven't circulated anything in a while, so that seems like something we need to get an answer on sooner rather than later.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna bring it to the executive committee next week.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Because actually, I was going to bring it up to the executive committee as well. So, okay.
Yeah, no, that's strange, because it's usually a whole formal thing. Like Ebenezer receives a list that has like everything in Manhattan, let's say, and then you just pick out what's in your district, but there's been nothing.
Right, and there's no notification, because it came as a surprise to me when I came back from my vacation, and I see try to get off the bus at a certain stop, and no, we don't stop here anymore. Well, hello.
Okay. All right. Anybody? All right, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I got Bruce on a second. All right, thank you. I know we were a little bit sort of on a lot of issues. And I think by October, we should be back on track on, old-fashioned agenda items and a lot of follow-ups for me, I think, on all of this. All right. Thanks again for everybody for being here. Meeting is adjourned. Omar Tejada, before you come off, let go of that mute and say hello.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing?
Hey, Omar.
Hey,
great.
Bruce.
Hi, Omar.
Looking great.
How's the baby?
Yeah.
Big. He just turned
Hey,
a
Omar.
year a couple of weeks ago. Hey everyone.
Oh my God.
So he's big. He's walking around, touching
my goodness.
everything. He went from just sitting to crab walking across the couch, holding on, to being adventurous and letting go. And now that's all he wants to do. He doesn't want you to carry him. He wants to get on the floor and walk around.
Independent.
Yes. And then it's a joy. He knows what a dog is, and sometimes he thinks a cow is a dog, and he says dog to a cow, and I'm like, no, buddy, that's a cow. I know they look kind of alike. So he's learning a lot, which is
It's the greatest part of those little ones. They learn so much every day. There's always something new.
Yes. And today I was running errands, and my wife said that when she went to pick him up at daycare, he's used to me being outside waiting in the car. And when I wasn't there, he just kept saying, da-da, da-da, da. And then she caught on and she's like, that's right, he's not here right now. And he's used to coming out the door and seeing him in the car. So I said, that's kind of nice, because that is kind of like furniture most of the time. It's really mama, mama, mama. So it was nice to hear that, hey, that exists sometimes, which is okay. But yes, it's as what everyone says, it's the most difficult and rewarding and challenging thing you'll ever do. And I'm very early in it, and I can understand some of it at this point. So we're coming up for air. So that's why I was able to join, because things are normalizing and schedules are, for now, he's in a schedule that's working. And I said, you know what, let me see what everyone's up to. I can pop in for a few minutes and say hi to everybody.
Well, you look great, even though it's your old photograph.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Thank you.
Ebenezer,
Thank
you
you.
don't have to record this part.
So, but then I need to kill the meeting.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
Ebenezer, how's
All
it
right.
going?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Omar, feel free to come visit us anytime. We'd love to see you. I saw you sort of flash on the screen at one of the other meetings, but then by the time I like could circle back and be like, wait a minute, Omar, are you here? Then I think you would have to step out. So Ebenezer, thanks for being with us tonight. I know Chanel was double booked, so you had to pitch in with us, and I appreciate you being here. And I'll get to you later in the week or early next week about the stuff that we've got together.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you,
All the
Ebenezer.
best,
Good night,
Omar.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Okay, Omar.
Likewise.